Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our session today. Welcome. I see we have at least 8 participants on at the moment. So I'll just do a little bit of an introduction. Welcome to the National Training Agency's online career guidance session. We are in week 1. For those of us who have been joining us since Monday, you might have enjoyed the sessions being hosted by some of my colleagues, those on career planning for the future and employability in Trinidad and Tobago. In today's session, we will be talking about TVET. Don't get too worried if you're not sure what TVET means. I'll explain it as we go along. It stands for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. I will be your presenter for today, and my name is Ms. Omita Jagannath. I'm a Customer Service Officer with the National Training Agency. Over the last couple of days, you would have heard my colleagues describe what we are, who we are. At the National Training Agency, we're a government organization responsible for vocational skills development. We report to the Ministry of Education. And as I promised, today we're going to talk about TVET and how you're going to get successful in TVET. TVET once again stands for Technical and Vocational Education and Training in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of you might have already seen this particular acronym somewhere. It's a CVQ. If you have just come out of secondary school, or perhaps you were already in secondary school, maybe in Form 3 or onwards, you would have been asked to select subjects that were technical and vocational in nature. And these would have been for you to work towards an award called the CVQ or Caribbean Vocational Qualification. Now, this particular qualification is for the technical and vocational skill areas. And it incorporates knowledge, skills, and attitude. So you would learn about a particular skill, you'd have the knowledge about it, you'd be able to practically practice it. And of course, your attitude, which informs everything that you do, would influence whether or not you would be deemed competent or not yet competent in a particular skill area. At the NTA, we create the standards for the CVQ. If you're in secondary schools, however, they are under the purview of the CXC, Caribbean Examination Council. We'll talk a little bit today about why you should get certified with a CVQ. There's an approved award that represents an achievement of a set of competencies in any specific skill area, some of which we'll be discussing as we go along in the session. Don't worry too much about all of the terminologies. At the end of the day, you would be certified with a CVQ once you fulfill the requirements that are laid out in the standards. Many opportunities exist, and some of my slides will take you through different pathways to how you can become competent in the technical and vocational field. It's not just a matter of continuing through school. There are many different ways that you can become certified. All right. You can become certified through workplace. You can also become certified through schooling, and you can become certified through a combination of both. And as with any certification, when you are certified, it enhances your employability. You can actually get opportunities to get into different levels of education, and you'd be able to incorporate some real work experience, thereby increasing your earning potential. I'm sure from these photos, we can see some familiar scenes. So we're seeing persons that are welding, persons that are dealing with special equipment, and even someone that's carefully laying bricks. All of these persons, we would like them to be skilled, proficient, knowledgeable. With enough practice, anybody can become an expert. I want to get you guys familiar with the term CVQ, Caribbean Vocational Qualification. I want to get you familiar with TVET. what is technical and vocational education and training. So many of these different categories that you see on the screen here are things that you deal with in everyday life. Air conditioning, refrigeration, auto mechanics, cosmetology, plumbing, food preparation. Are any of these something that perhaps you are interested in? As we already know right now, the particular state of the economy, especially with the impact of the pandemic of COVID-19, has meant that many persons have become laid off. What I want to reassure you is that in these particular skill areas, there are many people that would need these services all the time. I'm sure some of you already are grateful for your air conditioning repair person, especially with the heat outside there. And I'm sure some of you may even try your hand at some of these particular skill areas on your own. Have any of you started your kitchen garden, for example, done a little bit of agriculture? We'd love to hear from you, and you can put some of your photos on our, send it to us on our social media so we can see how interested how many people we have interested in these skill areas. As promised, I want to take you guys through something called a regional vocational qualification framework. It's basically about the different levels in technical and vocational education. As we start at the bottom, where we have level 1, these are persons that are semi-skilled. Those that are in masonry, carpentry, welding, they can be considered a tradesman assistant when they first start at this job. When they become a little more skilled, they become a little more able to work on their own. When you reach up to a level 3, that's a technical level, a technician level, right? And then you can go upwards again to additional degrees. Levels 4 can take you to professional certificates. And at the top of this particular qualification framework, we say level 5, where you would get an advanced professional degree. We gave an example on the right side of the screen where we talked about someone who might have started as a tradesman assistant. Maybe he worked his way up to a mason. We're using a construction example because I'm sure there are lots of us who know lots of people in this particular industry. Eventually, when they've gotten enough skills, knowledge, experience, qualifications, certifications, all of those things that we just talked about, they can work their way up to construction supervisor, supervising other persons who are working towards those other levels. In my next slide, I will talk to you a bit about how you can use your certification, how you can use your experience and get certified as well, so that you can get into those different levels we're speaking about beyond level 3, where you are professional or an advanced professional. So don't let this diagram get you too scared. What it really says is that there's not one straight path for you to get certified or to become competent in any technical and vocational area. Remember, this particular presentation is about your success in TVET. So as we mentioned, the CVQ is offered in secondary schools. We also have CVQ offered in many different training providers throughout Trinidad and Tobago. You can get a full list of the places that offer those certifications on our website. At the end of my presentation, you will get all our contact info. So as we can see here, you can start off at CXC. You can start off in CSEC. You can continue on to CAPE. You can move on from different institutions. The good thing about the CVQ is that when you achieve unit awards, you will be able to use them to get further qualifications, certifications, because sometimes different technical and vocational areas may have similar or the same units. You can also continue doing different sorts of bridging programs when you get beyond level 2, so that you can get into associate degrees and other university degrees at approved training providers and approved tertiary level institutions. I know many persons sometimes stop school, work a little bit, and then get back into the schooling system. What this particular diagram is telling you is that when you get some industry experience, you can also use that together with your certification and work towards getting a higher certification or a complete certificate. At the very lower end of the spectrum, you'll notice there's a little word called PLAR. That is something called Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition. And we may know many handy people in our area doing lots of jobs for our family members, and they're really good at what they do. We, for example, have a neighborhood plumber. He is somebody who knows all the things about plumbing. He's gotten a lot of experience in working in this industry, but he never really got certified. I'm sure many of you may know persons who fall in that category. PLAR is an option that can be used to have those persons use their work experience and become certified. So remember that, PLAR. We're doing this particular session online. I don't have to tell you that the new workplace has incorporated technology. You are viewing this through a Zoom platform, and I'm sure many of us, since we've had to deal with this pandemic, have had to embrace technology in one form or another since at least March of this year. In this particular instance, we are all evolving together. We are all learning. We are all continuously learning. Remember, life is about learning as we go along, right? And as we mentioned at the beginning, many persons' jobs have been impacted by the changes that have happened during the pandemic. As we can see here, there is globalization. I'm sure that if we reached out enough, we could have gotten persons from all over the world to listen to this session. And as we continue to do these sessions, I'm pretty sure we will get persons logging in from any part of the world. Isn't that fantastic? We all know there's the internet. We all know that we like to use the social media to do all sorts of entertaining things, entertaining ourselves, etc. But this is another way we can use the internet, where we're incorporating online learning, digital platforms, and spreading the information. I'm sure you're aware that many persons are sometimes employed on contract basis rather than having one job for life. And as we mentioned, we need to think about lifelong learning as something that we do. This is a little snapshot of some of the types of technical and vocational areas. Just as a reminder, guys, technical and vocational education and training. We have persons who do auto mechanic, persons who are chefs, persons who work in the tourism and hospitality industry. At the moment, we recognize that travel has been reduced drastically because of the current pandemic. So what I've recognized has been happening, at least in the local environment, is that people are encouraging staycations where we'd like our locals to safely stay in different hotels or visit our natural sites. Those are places that technical and vocational skills will come in very handy. All right. I know that many persons as well try to open their own businesses. I see here where we're talking a bit about those who are the entrepreneurs who want to open their own food places, their own ice cream places, where they want to do resales. And again, a lot of persons are incorporating technology, promoting their businesses through social media, and utilizing any sort of technical apps that are available to place orders and to do delivery. Another set of technical and vocational areas we can look at in the same particular industry of tourism and hospitality would be that of the chefs, the waiters, the doormen, the bartenders, the tour guides. We are all trying to find new ways to do these particular skills. But at the same time, I've seen many people make progress in terms of how they're doing things. For example, rather than be a tour guide where persons are physically going with you to the sites, I've seen some persons do some videos for themselves and post it on their YouTube channels and their Instagram lives. For those of us who are interested in that particular skill area for the tourism and hospitality industry, there's the Trinidad and Tobago Institute of Hospitality and Tourism, and in Tobago, the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism. All right. We live in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm pretty sure we can recognize those two persons that are shown in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. I know we get excited, we love our carnival, we love our music, we love our entertainment, and I certainly love soca. These are also some technical and vocational areas. I'm sure many of you out there might have planned some small events at home. Right now, because of the social distancing, we're going to have to find new ways to do our entertainment on the outside and even at home. But all of these are technical and vocational areas. Many of us know persons who are in the transport industry as well. And there's always going to be need for persons to drive trucks, for persons who service these vehicles. Nowadays, we have a lot of persons that are with have purchased hybrid vehicles, and that is how this industry has evolved, where persons are now learning how to address issues that are now inherent in computerized and hybrid vehicles. These are other technical and vocational areas that are of interest. We mentioned construction pretty early on. And we also mentioned that persons can be skilled and not yet certified in any of these areas. Please feel free to let your friends, your family members, etc., know that these are very valuable industry trends, and we need people in these industries all the time. We always need people to be carpenters, plumbers, site supervisors, joiners. We always need people in this industry. Even while we were on lockdown, I know that many persons would have had need to have repairs done. At least they would have had to call a plumber. The hardwares were filled all the time. So we know that things were going on. If not new construction, at least repairs. Think about how good it would be if you could probably do some minor repair works yourself. And here we have some more jobs in the construction and accessory products. Draftsmen, those persons that draw, electrical, painters, fabricators, welders. Most of the time when we find people in technical and vocational areas, they have multiple skills. So you may find someone with knowledge of electricity, electrical engineering, electrical installation, and they may have a little knowledge in plumbing. Think about the installation of a water heater in your shower. Most of the time we may call our electrician. But then after he makes that connection for us to get the water heater, maybe we need a plumber to make sure, or maybe we should have done it reverse. Have the plumber come in first, make sure we have the proper connections and enough water pressure to install that water heater, and then call the electrician. In the cases where the electrician can do both, then we've probably scored really well, and hopefully the bill won't be so high. There are other job opportunities. These are more industrial. And whilst we recognize that the energy industry has become a little bit slower, if not completely, how do we say, disappeared off of the current economy, at the end of the day, there are opportunities locally and abroad in different ways, because construction is something that is always going on. We've seen new highways being built. We've always seen where new technologies are incorporated. So all of these particular industries are still important. As I mentioned, even though we're still waiting to see what's going on with the oil sector, the energy industry, right now we'd say it's on hiatus, or it's rather slow. Because things are in a cycle throughout, we never know. We might see something increasing in need soon. The oil energy sector can actually surprise us in a little while. We also mentioned agriculture, and I asked if any of you were doing a home garden. We think about going to the grocery to get our food. And we just know sometimes we head into the supermarket, we walk it down the lanes, we pick up what we want, and then we go pay. But we don't think all the time about how the food actually gets into the supermarkets. And then what about persons who decided when we were on lockdown to sell some of these produce close to their homes? I know that in my area, many persons were trying to stay close to home, not going out very often. So they were grateful when a little shed was popped up selling little things that you might have needed, seasoning, tomatoes, bananas, any sorts of things like that. So there's need for persons in this industry, from those who plant all the way to those who sell. Here we can talk about the creative industry. Long ago, persons would have to draw things by hand, but now there's so much software available that you can use to do your designs. And I know that like nowadays we have so many people with all these fancy face masks with all these lovely designs. Those are done by different persons through either embroidery, some of them are hand painting it, some of them are using a machine, a heat press machine. So those are areas that you can express yourself, and these are other areas where you can probably engage and get a job. One of my uncles was an upholsterer, and his busiest season used to be Christmas, because in Trinidad and Tobago, most persons would have wanted to have their sofa sets reupholstered, and that was a very big job at the time. I'm sure that it still exists out there, but in a smaller niche. With the onset of COVID-19 and social distancing, I know a lot of persons were looking for job opportunities. And one of the groceries close to where I live sent out an advertisement for persons to assist them with their stocking of their shelves, sales personnel, persons to work different shifts, persons who can cash, those sorts of things. So these are also areas that are technical and vocational that you can get involved. And of course, we must honor our persons who are in these professions as well. The taxi drivers take us from one point to another safely. We have to trust that they will do so safely. The nurses are the ones that are making sure that they're doing testing, they're taking care of those who need the assistance, persons who are with, needing maternal assistance, maternity assistance, persons who just had babies, persons who are suspected for COVID and many other diseases, persons who need patient care, laboratory technicians who are running tests, funeral parlor workers. As much as we don't like to think about morbid things, they are an essential set of workers because we need people to be able to deal with, those who have moved on. This is just a sample of some training providers that you can check into to get some of the technical and vocational training we spoke about. And as I mentioned, if you're looking for others, they're all available on our website. There's always a job available, guys. And I just wanted to make sure before we run out of time that you saw our contact info and our social media handles so that you can contact us and look for the information regarding the registered training providers who can offer training in the CVQ. And right, before I actually open the floor to questions, I think that brings me to the end of my session. Yeah, I think that brings me to the end of my session. So, do we have any questions? So we're not seeing anyone with any questions at the moment, but I was asked to remind everyone that we have some sessions coming on again next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Our session on Monday, on the 3rd of August at 1 p.m. is going to be on what motivates you. On Tuesday, 4th of August, we will be speaking about the new normal, creating your own success. On Wednesday, the 5th of August, which is next week Wednesday, we'll be talking about essential and non-essential career paths. And we hope to have a much more interactive Q&A session at that time. I want to remind you that all of our sessions will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channels. Please stay tuned to our social media so that you'll be updated as to when that is available. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I do hope you all stay safe and have a lovely day. Thank you. Okay, so I think my colleague is letting me know that we actually have a question. So someone is asking, do you know where we can get more information on training programs available? Right. So is there any specific training program that you would like to find out about? As I mentioned before, we have a full list of our training providers on our website, which is www.ntatt.org. I believe I can try to share the screen again. Yeah. Right, so I'm seeing that we have queries regarding very specific programs. I invite you to ask these questions on our Facebook pages so that we'll be able to contact you and send you a full list of places where you can engage to get those certifications. Off the top of my head, if you're interested in cosmetology, I can recommend you check YTEP, which is www.ytep.gov.tt. In terms of ICT, which is information and communication technology, that is something that we would have to refer you to our website for, because there are many different categories of ICT. In terms of finding out something off the top of my head, I can tell you, you can probably check UTT as well for any information on their courses. Many of the training providers are actually taking their programs online now. So you can do these courses from the comfort of your home, just like you were able to view this webinar today, this session today. If there are no more questions, once again, I thank you for all your interest and attention. And we do hope that this was fruitful and rewarding to you. We look forward to you joining us for the rest of our sessions starting next week, Monday. Thank you.